As Christian leaders, we hear it all the time. God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and a sound mind. And yet, if we are truly honest, many of us are leading companies, organizations, and teams with fear running in the background every single day. Now, it might not look like fear from the outside. It looks like endless meetings, late nights, or maybe even the early hours in the morning when we're lying in bed and second guessing a decision that everyone else thinks you've already made. Now, I want to talk about today about what fear and anxiety really do to leaders at the highest level. And I want to give you a practical framework grounded in both science and also in scripture that can help you lead without fear running the boardroom. Now, because here's the truth. Fear and anxiety don't just sap your energy, they change the way your brain makes decisions. And when you're responsible for millions of dollars, hundreds of employees, or the reputation of your organization, it's not a small thing. If we look at the science of leadership, let's start with the science. I'm a pharmacist by training, so I've spent years studying the way our bodies and brains respond under stress. When you're facing constant pressure, deadlines, investors, board members, the weight of your team's livelihoods, your body kind of interprets that as a threat. And it doesn't care that it's not a lion chasing you across the field. To your nervous system, pressure is pressure. And what happens? Well, your adrenal glands release a thing called cortisol and adrenaline. These chemicals together shift the resources in your brain away from your prefrontal cortex, that's the part of your brain that does the strategic thinking, long-term planning, and risk assessment, towards the amygdala, which is really the part designed for survival. So in plain terms, you are fully capable, but in those moments, your brain is wired for a short-term reaction instead of a long-term wisdom. That's why leaders under chronic stress often find themselves more reactive, more impatient, and sometimes making decisions that they later regret. And it's not a character flaw, it's your chemistry. Now, let me give you a scriptural perspective of what fear really is. Now, let's look at this through, I suppose, scripture. The Bible is clear. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and petition, present your request to God. And it says, it's not saying that you never feel anxiety. It's saying you don't have to let anxiety run the show. Think about leaders like Moses. He felt overwhelmed, unqualified, and anxious about leading his people. Or Nehemiah, who had to face enemies while rebuilding the rebuilding the wall, I should say, with one hand, and also trying to focus on the work and holding a weapon with the other hand. See, these people, they didn't pretend anxiety didn't exist, but they learned how to anchor in God's presence so fear doesn't dictate their decisions. And the same is true for you. As a Christian executive, your role isn't just to lead a company, it's to steward influence, resources, and people in a way that honors God. And you can't do that at your best if anxiety is driving your boardroom decisions every single day. So I've created what I call the 3 P's framework. It's called pause, physiology, and prayer. So let's talk about a practical framework you can start using today. The first one is, step 1, I would say, is pause. Before you step into high-stake meetings, before you pick up the phone to make that phone call that you're dreading, just stop for 30 seconds. Acknowledge what's happening. I'm feeling pressure. My body is preparing for battle. That awareness alone is just simply powerful. So start pausing before your decision. Start to just stop for a minute and just take it all in before you make that decision. The second thing that I want you to do is address your physiology. This is where science meets stewardship. Do one quick physical reset that tells your nervous system that it's safe. It might be something as simple as unclenching your jaws, or relaxing your shoulders, or doing a discrete tension release exercise under the table. Those tiny actions signal safety to your brain, and they start shifting you back into clarity mode. And the third one, and a really important one, is prayer. Right there in the middle of your busy time, take one moment to pray. It doesn't have to be long. Something as simple as, Lord, give me the wisdom and the sound mind that I need right now. Prayer just isn't spiritual, it's neurological. Studies have shown that prayer and meditation actually calms the parts of the brain responsible for fear. It's literally rewiring your response. And then we address physiology. Prayer is simple, but I've seen this research change how executives walk into meetings, how they negotiate deals, and how they carry themselves as leaders. Now, you might be wondering, why does this all work? Well, when you combine awareness, which comes from the pause that we do, when you combine physical intervention, which is understanding your physiology, and the spiritual anchoring, which is prayer, you're hitting 3 levels of human performance: the mind, the body, and the spirit. So instead of pretending anxiety doesn't exist, I want you to learn from this. I want you to steward it, and I want you to redirect this anxiety into clarity, wisdom, and peace. And here's what happens when you practice this consistently. You sleep better, you think more clearly, the decisions carry more weight, and your people that you lead feel safer following you because you're leading from a place of calm authority instead of anxious reaction. So let me ask you, what would change in your leadership if fear wasn't running the background of your mind? If you could walk into your next boardroom knowing your decisions were anchored in both the wisdom of neuroscience and the peace of God's Spirit. This is exactly what I help my clients build. Not theory, but daily practices and systems that allow them to lead without fear, calling the shots. Now, if this resonates with you, I'd love to have a private conversation. Send me a message here on LinkedIn, or if you're watching this on YouTube, click the link in the description and let's talk about how we can build the framework into your leadership. Because leading without fear isn't just possible, my friend. It's the way you were called to do it.